Hello, this is Christian Wasinger. This is Christian Wasinger, certified clinical hypnotherapist and trainer of neurolinguistic programming. And I welcome you to our final livecast Google Hangout, where we discuss some of the topics that I talk about in my book, 10 Ways to Reboot Your Mind for Success. If you have not read the book yet, absolutely no problem. You will still be able to understand and gain hopefully a lot of insights from this broadcast. If you would like to order a copy of your book, you can either get it on Amazon, a paperback version of it, or also a Kindle version is available, or you can also go to my website, 10ways to rebootyourmind.com, to get a copy of the book. So today's topic is about letting go of things. We all have perhaps a whole plethora of things that we are holding on to that really prevent us from moving forward in our lives. It could be one thing, it could be a whole variety of different things. So we want to talk about some of the most common things that people seem to hold on, and things and ideas and concepts that we actually really need to let go of so we can live a more fulfilled and a happier life. So when we talk about letting go, I would like to share with you a quote that I find absolutely wonderful, and it is, letting go gives us freedom, and freedom is the only condition for happiness. So letting go of a lot of things, hopefully today, is going to be a helpful thing for you. Now, I would like to share with you and start out with something that I find absolutely interesting and fascinating and teaches us such a wonderful lesson in letting go, which are the Buddhist monks in their tradition of creating mandalas. Now, I do believe it's mandalas, maybe it's mandalas. I can always blame it on my accent. So if you're not familiar with mandalas, they are beautiful works of art that are symmetric, usually 9 by 9 feet, I do believe, and are created out of sand. And mandalas can take traditionally 9 days to be completed. And they are done by Buddhist monks, where they drop grains of sand of different colors into ornate patterns and symbols. And I want to share with you what that looks like in case you have never seen that. So I will share with you a couple of pictures, and then I will also share with you just a very short little video of how it actually happens. And then we'll talk a little bit more about how that relates to letting go. So I'm just going to click on over here, and let's see now. I'm going to share with you a little slide here. And let's look at this picture here, for example. So here you can see 3 monks at the very beginning stages of creating a mandala, and you see the instruments that they're using, those I don't know what they're called, but they kind of look like little silver needles. They have actually the sand within them, and they tap on it to release the sand. And the sand comes in many different vibrant colors. So usually you have many monks working on just one mandala for several days. Now, the next slide right here, you get to see several monks working on one mandala, and it looks like they've been working on it for quite a while, because that is a very big mandala. And just notice how vibrant it is in color, and it's amazing to think that everything that you see here is actually different colors of sand. So usually the monks will go into prayer, they will go into meditation while they are doing this. And the interesting part, and here's where the story of letting go comes in. Actually, before we do that, let me see if I can share with you this very short little video on the creation of a mandala. I found a YouTube video. So let's play this for a second. So you can see here the very beginning process, and here you see how the sand is starting to be released. Different colors of the sand and some of the utensils that are being used. Look at that. Imagine how long it takes to create one of those mandalas. Let's go a little further back here. Wow, phenomenal. Let's go a little further back in the video. Here you have the finished product. Oh, not finished yet. I thought it was. Oh, they have ways to go. So I hope you were able to see that. And let's see, hopefully I should be back with you. Having some technical difficulties here. Here we go. Yes, I am back. All right, so where does the lesson come in? The lesson comes in the fact once a mandala is done, it will be blessed by the Buddhist monks, and it will only live for a very, very short amount of time, and then it will be destroyed. And the lesson behind it is that everything in life, or nothing in life, is permanent. Everything is in flux. So I also have a very short little video of that for you, so that you actually see some of the ceremony. And hopefully here we go with the video. All right, almost there. Hang in with me. Hang in with me. Here we go.
The sand image only existed for a few hours before the monks destroyed it, to the regret of observers, but to the joy of the believers. The sand pattern mandala is destroyed as a metaphor for the transitory nature of life. The monks gave the dyed sand to those in attendance. The visitors can go home as a part of a deity's home. When they get home, they should sprinkle the sand on the heads of...
All right, so that is the lesson of those mandalas, and how everything, sun is hitting me, let's move a little bit, how everything in life is transitory and is flux. So we want to learn to let go of things, and there's many different things that we want to learn to let go of. The first one I want to talk about is perfectionism. Now, many of us may be victims to perfectionism, and I certainly am no exception here, but I'd rather like to think myself in recovery. I used to be a perfectionist, and the problem with perfectionism is that we are never happy with the status quo, that we always are looking for the next best thing. We are never taking time to celebrate our successes. And there really is no such a thing as perfect. It doesn't matter how well you do something, there is always a way to improve upon it. You know, think about Olympic athletes. Even when they win a gold medal, and they are the number one in the world, there is still room for improvement. And very often, those very same athletes will even prove that by beating their own world record. So you don't want to strive for perfectionism. What you want to do is you want to strive for excellence. You want to strive for doing your own personal best. And perhaps the next time you can, strive to do even better than that. But when we look at perfectionism, oftentimes we do compare ourselves to other people or to a specific certain standard. A lesson that I have learned in my life that was really a wonderful learning, and I wish I would have learned it sooner. I used to be a competitive ballroom dancer for many, many years, and I remember right before I moved to the US, I decided to officially retire, or I first decided to retire, and then I got the opportunity to move to the United States. And it was my very last dance competition where I just felt I did the most perfect, for lack of better words. I enjoyed myself the most. I've never enjoyed a performance or dancing so much than the last one. And I do believe that the reason for it was that I was no longer in competition mode, because I already knew this is my last competition and it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to do my personal best. I'm going to make sure I have fun doing it. And I believe because of that change in my attitude, it actually was the best I have ever danced. So I now try my best to let go of those ideas of perfection and live on a daily basis. Let me do the best that I can today with what I know. And if I feel I've done my best, that is happiness. So for me at least, so I do ask you to just, or invite you to let go of that perfectionism. Reaching true perfection is really impossible. All we can do is we can perform at an excellent level. The other thing is, when we are driven, this is a passage of my book, when we're driven by perfectionism, we tend to value ourselves by what we do, pursuing excellence. Instead, we start to value ourselves by who we are. So perfectionists compete against others and measure their improvement against others' performance. Pursuing excellence prompts us to compete only against ourselves and measure our improvement against our previous performance. Perfectionists hate criticism. Choosing excellence, we see criticism as an occasion for learning. So let go of that perfectionism. The next thing to let go of would be letting go of fear. And there's a wonderful book out there, if you have not read it, by Marianne Williamson, which is called Love is Letting Go of Fear. I highly recommend it if you have not read it. You may have heard the acronym of fear being false evidence appearing real. And in my opinion, fear is simply the absence of faith. We don't have faith that things are going to work out, that we can do certain things. So fear, in my opinion, is much that, just not having faith. And faith is almost like a muscle. We have to strengthen it. We have to work on it. And the more often we use it, the more we can operate from faith. So it's much like when you drive to a new location, you have you've never driven there, and perhaps you put all the coordinates into your GPS or a navigational system, whatever you're using, and the very first time you drive there, you might be afraid of getting lost. There may be a little bit of fear there, but because you're putting all that into your GPS and you know you have directions now, you start operating from perhaps a slight level of faith. And then once you have driven that road or the route one time, it's like, okay, now I have more faith that I can get there. And perhaps after driving there several times, you start having faith that you can get there without even using the GPS. So you trust and you have faith. And it's only normal that when we do something at first, that it is a little bit uncomfortable. And we have to be outside of our comfort zones in order for us to grow. And a famous quote comes from Jack Canfield, and he says, everything you want is on the other side of fear. And how true is that? So we want to let go of that fear, which is simply just absence of faith. Now, sometimes we want to go from fear to confidence in one clean swoop. Unfortunately, it usually doesn't work that way. Think of a skill, for example, that you want to learn. Let's just say you want to learn how to play golf. You don't become an excellent golf player by just, by just doing it. And what you have to do is you have to practice it. And then you start to feel more confident. Confidence always comes from competence. Yeah, so you don't go from having faith, all of a sudden you're confident, but you get there little by little, one step at a time. So letting go of that fear, and just know that even if you don't know yet how you will get to a certain place, that is okay. You don't have to know everything yet. Just have faith that the steps to get where you want to go are being revealed to you. They're going to be uncovered for you. So, for example, when I first started to write the book, 10 Ways to Reboot Your Mind for Success, I didn't know everything about writing a book or about publishing a book. I just knew that I wanted to write this book because there was a demand there. I had no idea about how to get an ISBN number. I didn't know how to get my book on Kindle, but I figured, you know what, let's not worry about that. Let's worry first about starting to write. And then maybe after that, we're going to start worrying about getting an editor. And then we worry about, or I don't even want to think about worry. Let's just say we focus the energy on this and this and that. And it almost is as everything just fell into place. I did a little research and I just had faith. I just knew that whatever I needed is going to come in the perfect time into my life. And it did. And the more often I operate on that level of faith, the more often I am proven that it is the right thing to do. So let go of fear. It's just absence of faith and false evidence appearing real. So choose your favorite definition of faith. The next thing you want to let go of is regret. And there is another wonderful saying that I absolutely love, and I think it's so perfect for letting go of regret. And unfortunately, we don't know where it came from or whose quote it is, but it is, never regret anything, because at one time it is what you wanted. So if you regret something that you did in the past, realize that at that moment, that is really what you wanted. It may not have worked out the way you hoped it would, but at that given moment, it was absolutely what it is that you wanted. And remember, you do your personal best at every given moment. And if you did not see last week's webinar, if you weren't there, you can watch it on my website, 10 Ways to Reboot Your Mind, or the NLPexpert.com, or on YouTube. We talked about some of those presuppositions of NLP, such as always do your personal best. So let go of regret. Another one that is very, very helpful to let go of is the feeling of guilt. And a quote, again, I just love quotes, as you can tell. No amount of guilt can change the past, and no amount of worrying can change the future. Now, guilt, the emotion of guilt has really only one purpose and one purpose only. It is for us to realize that we have a conscience. The moment we start to feel the feeling or the emotion of guilt, it has done its job, because that moment we realize that we have a conscience, and that uh, we feel a little remorse, and we wish would have handled the situation differently. But the moment we feel those feelings of guilt, guilt has done its job. There is no longer a use for that emotion. So all you can do is let it go. You can know, or you can never change what you did in the past. You cannot do that. But what you can do is, now that I have perhaps made a new learning and understanding, what is it that I would like to do now? What can I change now to improve the situation? Perhaps you may apologize. Perhaps you take some other form of action. But stop holding on to the guilt, because no one, including you, is helped by you feeling that feeling or emotion of guilt. And if you have done something um, towards someone else and you feel guilty about that, if you feel guilty, it does not help the other person feel better either. So it is one of those things that you want to let go of also. The next thing to let go of are worries. And lots of worry words probably out there. And it's something that, guilty as charged, we do fall into that uh, time where we just worry about certain things. And the quote that I have for you for letting go of worrying is, worry does not empty tomorrow of its sorrow. It empties today of its strength. Now, when we worry about things, I want you to think about that for a moment, and you'll probably realize very quickly that we tend to worry about future events. We worry about things working out in an undesirable way for us. So we tend to worry about future events. And in most cases, the scenarios that we play out in our mind, they're actually never going to happen in first place. So the things we worry about most of the time never happen. And then afterwards, of course, we realize all that worrying was so much expanded energy we could have used in many, many different ways. So worrying also kind of falls a little bit together with not having faith. Because if you have faith that things will work out, you can stop worrying. So when we worry, we tend to focus on the negative, on what might happen. And we don't necessarily see that the positive could also happen. And there is that chance and that possibility, because simply in life we have the law of duality, which states that if one thing or one possibility exists, its opposite also has to exist. It is just that we tend to focus on just that one so much that we may not even realize that the other one is a valid possibility. So I invite you to remember that. Remember, what are you worrying about? And, most likely it's not even going to come true in the end of it. And, just think about everything everything will work out at the end. And I do not remember whose quote is that. It's everything always works out at the end, because, hold on, how was it? At the end, everything will work out. And if it doesn't, it only means that it is not the end yet. Hey, that's a good one, isn't it? So everything will work out at the end, and if it doesn't, it just means it is not the end yet, and you haven't arrived at the end yet. So you want to let go of those worries. The next thing to let go of is the how. Many times when we are uh, embarking on a goal and we are uh, working on achieving something, yes, we do want to have a plan, and we want to know, number one, obviously, what it is that we want, and we want to have somewhat of a plan of how we're going to get there. However, I would like for you to be flexible, and that's a presupposition of NLP that I haven't talked about yet, but it basically talks about be flexible with your approach, and it is the system with the most flexibility will be the catalyst of any system. So the more flexible you can be, the better it is. So if you have a certain goal or outcome that you would like to achieve, know what it is, but let go of how it has to happen. Because if you are really focused, it has to happen a certain way, you may close yourself off to other possibilities. So let me give you an example from my life. I absolutely love watching plays, musicals, anything that has to do with live theater. And I would go as much as I possibly can. Now, you may be aware that that can become very pricey if you like to go quite often. So all I knew is that I would like to see more plays and musicals and go to the theater and watch performing arts, but I did not place a how that is going to happen on it. In the beginning, yes, I thought, oh no, it's not going to happen. I don't have enough money to see all the things I would like to see, but I let go of the how. And what happened is I was asked if I would join an usher team. And as an usher, it's a volunteer job, but in return for, helping people to be seated, handed out programs, and, little, very, very easy things, I got to watch the shows for free. And I started out at one theater, and then eventually I don't know how I got onto an ushering list for several other theaters. So now I have the opportunity to see many different plays and musicals, and most of the time I don't have, well, yeah, most of the time when I'm ushering, I never have to pay for them. And on top of them, most of the times I even get orchestra seats, because they like for the ushers to fill in any empty spots so the orchestra pit is completely full with people. So let go of the how. Let go of how things need to happen, and be open, and just be flexible with your approach. We got two more things to let go of, and then, and even if you just let go of one, start with one, and it will help you to be happier and live a more fulfilled life. So the next one we have is letting go of the why. Ooh, that's a big one. People will always ask, why can't I lose weight? Why can't I make more money? Why can't I exercise more? Why can't I be more motivated? Whatever it is for you, let go of the why. The problem with why questions is that, number one, the mind, when you ask a why question, will just circle around and around and around around the problem, and you will not get a good answer. So I invite you to let go of the why and replace your why with a what or how. So rather than saying, why can't I lose weight, you could say, what can I do today to become healthier and be more in shape? You don't want to talk about losing weight, because subconsciously the mind doesn't like to lose things. We don't like to lose things. You can talk about getting into a better shape, or you can talk about releasing weight or letting go of weight. So when we lose things, we usually we kind of go and find them, because it's like, oh my God, I lost something, let me go find it. And when it comes to weight, we tend to find it and someone else's, some extra weight on top of that. So ask a what or how question. How um, how can I exercise more regularly? What can I do to make exercise more fun? So rather than asking a why question, you want to ask a question that starts with a what, and also with a how. So you want to, looking at my notes here, I want to make sure I share with you everything I wanted to share with you. Let go of the why. It's the ego always tries to blame someone. Why can't I lose weight? Who am I supposed to blame? Who am I looking for? Let go of the why, because when you start reframing things, you start to get different answers, and you start to come up with new solutions to your perceived problems. And if you've read the book, I don't like to call problems problems. They're challenges. Challenges are much easier to overcome. The last thing to let go of, and I do believe we spoke about that more in detail in the last Google Hangout, so go and watch that, is letting go of failure. There is no failure. There is only feedback. And in the very famous interview with Thomas Edison, when a reporter asked him, how did it feel having failed so many times? And it was in regard to when he invented the light bulb. He answered, I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. So there really is no such thing as failure. It's just feedback from the universe that you need. You still need to work on things. You needed to learn some lessons. And if you think about the past, everything that you ever wanted to achieve, you achieved because you kept going at it, and you kept trying until you figured out a way. There may have been times when you did not achieve a certain goal, and you may have perceived it as failure. However, you didn't fail. You only stopped pursuing that particular goal. And that does not mean you didn't fail at it. Perhaps the goal was no longer desirable for you. Perhaps it was no longer important for you to achieve that goal. So you simply changed your mind, and you just stopped pursuing that goal. So that no longer was important to you. So those are the things that I wanted to share with you today, the different things we can let go of. And as I said, start with one. If you can do more than one, fantastic, but you want to start at least with one. So quickly review. We were talking about just the idea of letting go. Letting go of fear was one of them. We talked about letting go of regret, letting go of guilt, because that doesn't help anyone. We talked about letting go of worries, letting go of the how things have to happen. So we want to be more open to different ways. And we talked about letting go of the why. And last but not least, we talked about letting go of the failure. Now, in my book, I talk more extensively on each one of those topics that we can let go of. So if you have not read my book, if you don't have a copy, go ahead, get yourself one, Kindle or paperback, available on Amazon or through my website. I hope you are taking away from this today. I'm wishing you all the best, and make sure you share this video with many others. It will be up on YouTube and on my website. Have a wonderful day. Make today an amazing day, because you have the power to do so. Have a good one.